Hey everyone, my name is Austin, and welcome back to another episode of the Unfiltered Faith Podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm so glad you're here. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I am so excited to introduce today's guest. His testimony is about real faith, real struggle, and real healing. And you hear this story, it's raw, honest, and layered, full of redemption. If you've wrestled with your identity, suffered a major heartbreak, felt far from God, or just wondered if purpose could arise from pain, this one's for you. From growing up in a small Baptist town to heartbreak, healing, and now helping others find purpose, his story is about letting go of who you were so God can shape who you are becoming. This is going to be real. So, Stephen, can you tell us about yourself and why you want to share your story?
When I connected with you on Facebook, it's actually been something that has kind of been on my mind lately as I'm starting to change my course of my career and things that I want to do differently. Coaching and developing other people, and as far as the transformation from what they are to what they want to be, is a very passionate thing for me. And it's really about pretty much my adulthood, the changes that I've gone through and the transformation that I've made myself. Somebody asked me a few months ago, looking back at 5 years ago, who do you wish you had to like guide you? And I'm like, I wish I had myself 5 years ago to guide me, to know what I was going to go through, because I feel like so many of us are so caught up in social media, which I say is the unsocial media. And I feel like so many people are just lost, and not in a spiritual sense, but just in a physical and emotional sense. So it's kind of been on my heart to kind of like tell my story, because I do feel that my experiences can help other people get through whatever their situation is.
So, we talked a little bit earlier, and you mentioned having a natural happiness as a kid. When did that start to shift? What was junior high like for you?
Growing up in a small town, I lived with my parents and my younger sister. I didn't have a strong relationship with my dad during that time because he would go out, drink or whatever, and but my mom was always home with me and my sister. So my relationship was mostly with her. But overall, I was a happy kid. Like, we had some neighborhood kids, hang out, do things outside. I just remember like playing with cars in the mud and stuff like that. The He-Mans and all that stuff way back when. I loved going to school, elementary school. I loved it. I loved art. I was very much into art at the time. When I got into middle school is kind of when things changed, because kids are just cruel. Well, I was starting to get bullied in a way from like name calling, like fag and all that stuff. And I didn't even know what being gay was. I had no concept of it. But the church that I went to, my friends there, we were super close friends, but at some point they were talking about me too. And I don't know if it was because of my mannerisms and some things that I did. I had a little bit of more femininity when I was younger. But then at some point, I started to have those feelings, which I guess we'll get to. I hated going to school. Like, my grades dropped. That was a huge transition for me.
I'd love to dive a little deeper into your personal journey, and if you're comfortable sharing, I'd really be interested in hearing about your experience with coming out. Was there a specific moment or turning point when you felt ready to embrace your true self and share that with others?
So officially, the first person that I told was actually a girl that I went to church with and was really good friends for a long time. And it kind of came out as a joke. I don't know. So I told her, and then she ended up telling all my friends. And I was disappointed. And I'm like, why did you tell these people that? And she's like, I just didn't know how to process it. I'm like, it's not yours to process. It's not yours to deal with. It's something I entrusted in you. So that's kind of like how my first time coming out was.
How did you navigate being homosexual and being a Christian at the same time?
It was difficult because it's like, how do you separate the two? Because growing up in the Southern Baptist community, it was like being gay is wrong. And there were times, like, it was probably middle school, high school, when I had started to have those thoughts and those emotions and things. I was literally crying in my bedroom, like, I don't want to be this. But I couldn't change, or like my thoughts wouldn't change. It's like pray the gay away, but the gay was not going away. So I would go to church with my mom, but I would go to these church camps every summer and then twice a year on like a seasonal thing. And it's not like the church camp where it's like fun and games. It's really Bible study and everything. I would do these things and I would feel guilty, but there was no answer. I had nobody to talk to. It was challenging for sure.
How did that feel? Because there wasn't as many resources back then as there is now. I mean, I bet it was pretty isolating. How did you navigate that?
There was no internet. There was dial-up internet, AOL. It's like, there's no way to look up things. There's no way to, if I want to look up something, I go to Barnes and Noble because that was all we had. And when I got out of high school, I started working for a company, and that's where I started to meet more people. A couple of gay guys at my work, and I went out with them a few times. But prior to that, there was AOL chat rooms, but it was very minimal. Nothing, I mean, there were no apps or anything like that. People just didn't talk about it.
So then we step into the part of your life where you're exploring sexual desires, using hotlines, and navigating identity in secret. What was going through your mind during those years, emotionally and spiritually?
I always felt a connection with God, but I would say, obviously, during that time, there was distance because I felt kind of rejected in a way, obviously, from the church aspect. But then going back to the resources, I did at some point get into pornography, which I found in my dad's room. There's these hotline numbers. So I was like, let me try this and see what it's about. So it was basically you go in onto the number 900, whatever. But so that's kind of how the initial exploring started for me. It wasn't physical. It was just like verbal communication. That was actually how I met the first person that I relationship with. It was a guy my age. We kind of had the same background. We talked for over a year. That's when I started going out a little more. And after high school, I started working out more. I was getting in shape. So that's where I was getting more attention than what I was when I was a kid, because I was a chubby kid. So to finally go out and start to get attention felt good to me because I hadn't had that. And how many years did I deal with like the whole bullying situation? So that's kind of how that started.
Looking back, how did those early experiences shape how you viewed intimacy, love, and your worth?
I didn't see any love in it. It was just kind of lust. It made me feel more attractive because I was getting attention that I had not had before. But from the love perspective, I didn't really feel love for it at that time. I don't think love came on until much later on. At some point, probably a couple of years later, I met somebody and we were also very much alike. I decided I was going to go visit. So I went for a weekend and it was New Year's weekend. And we started out as friends, but then we got into a relationship for 2 years and then that ended.
I'd love to hear about the last relationship you were in, the one that after it ended seemed to be a turning point for you. How did that experience help you grow or shift your perspective on life?
The last one, that one is a big one. So this was somebody I was with for 9 years. And this was the most recent one. And so we were together for 9 years. I'm also the gay guy that said he would never get married. I'm like, I don't believe in it. At 8 years, we decided to get married. We had a really good life. Like we both worked hard. We both had decent jobs. We had our own place. We had 4 dogs. We traveled. We never had like major fights. Obviously, there were some things that popped up in between our relationship. But 8 years, we decided to get married. And then a year later, things were going well. I just bought my house 2 years before that. It was my first home. I worked really hard for this new role with my job that I had just gotten. And so going into a year, I'm away for a work trip and I'm getting these texts in the morning like, I love you so much. Just very odd comments. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, I just want to tell you I love you so much. And I'm like, what's going on? You're not like that. You don't say stuff like that. I call him and I'm like, what are you talking about? That's basically when he broke up with me. We just got married a year before. You're doing this to me and I'm out of town. I'm at work. I'm around people. I can't show any emotion. I'm coming back home that night and I'm coming home to somebody who's leaving me. The days that followed were just extremely hard because I still had to work. I didn't really have many people to talk to because I didn't have really close friends. Our relationship was like, we had some friends, but not like super close. And for a couple of months, he moved to the other bedroom. There was nothing I could do. I tried to get him to go to therapy with me. I tried to figure it out. He went to therapy on his own. Some things happened after that that were a little more volatile near the end. COVID started. I lost my job. Luckily, I was able to sell my house and I moved to my parents. Put everything in storage where I was and put my dogs and 3 suitcases in my car and drove to my parents for the rest of that year. And that was probably the hardest year of my life because it was like the 3 main things you work for as an adult: your relationship, your job, and a house, all gone in 6 months.
So you lost your job, COVID hit, and you moved back in with your parents. That sounds like an avalanche of loss. What did that season teach you about pain, anger, and God?
I would go to church with my mom, but it was like the first Sunday, which obviously I went through every emotion possible. I just remember 2 Sundays that I was so full of anger, and honestly, I was angry at God. I'm like, I don't understand why this is happening. So much was happening. And you're ready for jobs all year long, all over the country. I was willing to go anywhere. I did not want to move back to where I was. The first job I got was to bring me back where I was. That's like, what is this going on? It makes no sense. So like there were those 2 Sundays I remember specifically. I was just angry at God and I just had to get through it and had 2 like emotional breakdowns in front of my parents, like hysterically crying. Like I've never seen myself like that before. So my parents to see that and they've never seen me emotional. But then I got a part-time job at Home Depot. It was probably the best therapy I could have. I had to drive 45 minutes to get there every day. And it was good therapy just to kind of like figure things out. They always say something good comes out of bad. And like I mentioned before, I never had a really close relationship with my parents, especially my dad. And during this year was a total turnaround. The communication was much more open. I talked to my dad more than I ever did before. But also right before that, he had just got cancer right after I moved back. Luckily, they caught it in time and they got rid of it. But it was just like, it was a lot during that time. But the one thing I do see out of it is that it built me a relationship with my family that I had not had before.
Was that relationship building with your parents in a way also helping you build your relationship with God?
I think anytime you're put in those type of positions where your life is just upside down, either you go further away or you come closer. For me, I felt like in the beginning, I was pushing away and became closer. And so going back, back to the end of the year before I got a new job to move back was like, okay, God, I'm tired of interviewing with these companies. I'm just like, I just want to start back. So I got the job opportunity and I'm like, okay, God, if I get this job, I will go to church. So the only church I knew was in Miami and I got this apartment. Let me go into that weekend. So I went to visit a friend of mine that weekend. I got a job offer on Friday and they were opening in 2 weeks. Can you be here next week? And I'm like, I'm here now, but I have to move. So they're like, when can you be here? And I'm like, well, I need to look for an apartment. So that was Friday. Saturday, I looked for the apartment. Sunday, I signed for the apartment. Monday, I flew home. Tuesday was my birthday. Wednesday, I drove back with my dogs. So in 5 days, everything turned around again. Literally, it was a whirlwind. The salary was half of what I was making. I didn't know how I was going to make it. And honestly, I didn't know how I was going to make it through 2020, not having a job or just working part time because I had bills to pay. And for whatever reason, everything was paid on time during that year. When they say God provides, he really does, but you have to trust in it. And that's something I'm dealing with right now. Something I heard a while back was having blind faith when you can't see it. And or maybe it's been so long where you don't see the end of this road. You have to have blind faith that it's going to happen. And the right thing's going to happen. It's not on our time. It's on his time, which is hard to agree with. So I'm kind of dealing with that right now with my work situation because I'm looking for something different. I'm also starting a coaching business, which I'm very excited about. I'm very nervous about. So I'm having to have that same blind faith right now during this time. But it's a different scenario, obviously.
So 2 weeks after moving, a church postcard arrives, you go, you feel something. What happened in that theater that made you say, this feels right?
So I was like, okay, God, I get you. I had just moved into the apartment. Within 2 weeks, I got a postcard in my mail for this new church that was literally 10 minutes away from me. They had started the church during COVID, but they couldn't meet in public, so they met online. They were finally opening their doors in December, and I was like, okay, this is it. This is it. And I went, and it was such an amazing group of people. It's so diverse. The whole church really works together to make things happen because they have to bring in the equipment every Sunday morning at 6 o'clock to set up for a 1 hour sermon and then take it back down. And it's like the whole thing, the sound system, the lights. Otherwise, it's just a dark theater. It just felt good. Church is not the old church it used to be, you know? Like I've invited a few people to my church and they're just like, wow, their churches are 3 hours long and it's like a whole day event. Like they do community things, they'd have groups during the week. It's just very different.
How did being part of that church help you begin to rebuild not just your faith, but also yourself?
Honestly, it was forcing myself to go because obviously going to church by yourself and not really knowing anybody, it's a little intimidating. But I would force myself to go, but I would always get something out of it. And then another thing I would do, like Sundays that I couldn't go, like if I had to work, I would watch Elevation Church. He's really good as well. He kind of reminds me of my pastor. And then I went through a little bit of a patch where I didn't go and had to figure some things out. But I also was going through a depression. Though depression is something I've dealt with for several years, probably like 15 years or more. So I went through therapy, I went to counseling, all that stuff, but it only does so much. Even medications only do so much. So I finally found, with a lot of research on my own time, I finally found a treatment that I was interested in. So after meeting with psychiatrists, we agreed to try it. It has totally changed my life. It, I don't know how to explain it, but it does something with your neurological system, totally resets you. And it works different for different people. Sometimes it takes longer. For me, within 4 weeks, my anxiety was like half of what it was. And that's kind of like when things started to change for me again. And this was last year. Like I felt the anxiety was like going away. The depression was not there. I found myself laughing, which I had not done in so long. I found myself wanting to do things and be more active. So that's when I started to return to the church and doing other things that would keep me spiritually motivated. And then that's where the coaching thing kind of came back into my life because it's something I wanted to do several years ago, but I wasn't ready at that point. Now I feel my experiences through life can help other people, but during that time, I couldn't even help myself. So definitely my relationship with God is much closer. I also didn't know how to read the Bible. I found it very confusing. And until last year, I got this Bible. It's the easiest thing to understand because it has like sections in it that talk about different things and how to understand this process. And it even takes them to like to current days, like things they might experience or feel, give them an idea of what it was like back then. So I find it incredible. So, and I actually gave my best friend one, the same thing. And he's been going to church with me too, which was a good thing because we became friends at work like 3.5 years ago. Then one day I asked him and he's like, yeah, I'll go. So now he's been going almost every Sunday. So I feel more apt to talk about God and changes in my life that I've seen with other people that I wasn't comfortable with before.
So, what stirred that calling for you to be a life coach?
I wanted to do it years ago. I was also super busy years ago
Yeah.
with the job that I had. I had more free time at night. So one day I was just thinking, maybe I have this job. I'm stuck in this job to get me started on life coaching, or I call it more transformational coaching. So I invested into this kind of like online training thing. I built my website and I have my first client tomorrow. I'm very excited. I was actually getting a lot of positive feedback. And I'm like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing and see where it takes me. So like the one I'm meeting with tomorrow was actually somebody from Facebook and he's local. But I saw a post from him about something and he seemed very discouraged. And it seems to be something to do with a relationship, but also something to do with just what his mindset is like. And really, to make things change, you have to change your mindset. It's from the time you wake up in the morning till the time you go to bed at night, you have to shift how you think about things. And your first thought might be this, but okay, what are you going to do to take it from this negative emotion to, okay, what am I going to do differently to not continue to have that? So, and then a few of them, like I see that it's relationships that they've maybe recently got out of, they're hurt, they feel abandoned. And then I think I mentioned earlier is like, I just feel so many guys are lost. And looking at like the gay community itself, a lot of things in the world is toxic, but in certain environments, it's even more toxic. So I look at parts of my life and I'm like, I don't necessarily regret things that I've done because I think everything I've done has made me who I am today. I'm not proud of everything I've done, but I don't hold that against me either. Like I don't live based on those things that I did because I know there's a lot of good things I did and there's a lot of great things I'm gonna do. But some people are so hung up on those old actions or those old habits, but it's really about what's the issue, what are the habits we need to break, and how we're going to retrain our mind to do things differently. And until somebody breaks it down for you like that, I don't think you know how to do it because you're just spinning wheels trying to make it through the day. And that's how I was. So I just imagine that's what other people are dealing with too. And especially in the gay community because superficial, it's just like social media. It's all like a show, but people are struggling behind those doors and they feel lost and they don't know how to express their emotions. So like this one I'm meeting with tomorrow, I can tell that's what he's going through. And it was me that reached out to him. And I think initially I don't think he wanted to but then after like communicating a couple more times, he messaged me the next day and he's like, I do need to talk to somebody. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. But, that person also has to be willing to take that step too. But it helps when you have somebody that kind of pushes you to do that. I didn't have that person. I didn't have that accountability partner. A lot of my things were self-taught. Fall and break a leg and get yourself back up.
So before we wrap up, what's one lie you used to believe about yourself that God has completely rewritten?
I would say going back to the blind faith part, I'm the person that always has these high goals and high expectations for myself. Also the type of person that forces things to happen. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And what I learned in the last 2 years is that forcing things to happen doesn't work because if it's not what God wants for you, it's not going to happen. And looking at different things on Instagram, my whole algorithm has changed to these much more positive things and to get me to think differently. And I will see something every day about God's plan is better than yours. I see something like that every day and probably 100 other things. But I think now it's just like, okay, God, here it is because I can't do it anymore. I'm tired. I'm tired of trying to make things happen and they're not working and just getting disappointed and getting back in a state of mind that is not good. Um, so that's my most recent learning experience.
What's one truth that keeps you grounded today?
Self-forgiveness was a really hard thing for a long time. And I think so many people deal with that because we take that guilt upon ourselves that it was something we did. So self-forgiveness and self-awareness for the future really is, I think, two big things. I always try to be self-aware every day of things that I say, things that I do, because you never know where you are, who's watching, and what thoughts people might have. And obviously you want to be somebody who radiates a positive thing because you never know what you can contribute to their life just in silence, just by viewing. So you just never know.
Your story is proof that even after everything sin, shame, depression, rejection God still works purpose into our lives. You're not too far gone. You're not too far broken. Let go of who you were and let blind faith carry you into who you're meant to be. Thank you so much, Stephen, for coming out for this episode. If this episode touched you in any way, please share it with someone who needs it. Leave a review. Follow us on Instagram at the Unfiltered Faith Podcast. Until next time, keep seeking those fresh perspectives and keep having those unfiltered conversations with others to better understand the world around us.